So, the Battlefield Hardline beta has ended, and it's time to go back to playing the old game Battlefield 4, or Battlefield 3 if that was your choice of game. Now, there's quite a few things that I noticed when I went back and played Battlefield 4, and it did take me quite a while to get adjusted back into the old style of me playing. Now, I did, admittedly, after a couple of games, I did get the hang of it, but there were a couple of things that I noticed that I'd gotten used to whilst playing Battlefield Hardline for a week, constantly, that kind of threw me off, me playing Battlefield 4. And that gave me the idea, what is so different about Battlefield Hardline from Battlefield 4, and indeed Battlefield 3, that just makes it that much different? And then it also made me think about, if I was trying to play these games at the same time, how would I manage to balance my skill at one game whilst trying to balance it with the other game, and how would I be able to sort of adapt and switch between the games quickly? So in this video, I'm going to look at what is different between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline. Now, first of all, the first thing that threw me off was, of course, the time to kill. I mentioned this in my initial impressions video, and speaking of which, there will be a full upcoming in-depth look at what my thoughts are on the whole Battlefield Hardline beta coming soon, so make sure you subscribed for that. But as I mentioned, the time to kill in Battlefield Hardline is a lot quicker. The damage model of the assault rifles is 28 for a body shot, whereas in Battlefield 4 it is 24. So in Battlefield Hardline it's essentially a 4-shot kill or a 3-shot if you get one headshot. Whereas in Battlefield 4, it's a 5-shot kill or a 4-shot if you get a headshot. Now that threw me off because I'd played Battlefield Hardline for a week constantly. I'd gotten so used to just firing off 4 or 5 shots and hoping that 3 of them would hit and get a kill. So what I was doing is I was firing off 4 or 5 shots and expecting to get a kill, but it wasn't because my accuracy wasn't as good as I thought it would be. So I was probably hitting 3 out of them 5 shots, and then I would run away, duck behind cover, and then get shot because they hadn't actually died, and I hadn't got the kill that I had expected to. So after getting used to that, it did become a lot easier, and I did switch out to a couple of the weapons that I am more used to, so the Ace-23, rather than the L85A2, which I'm not as used to. So definitely switching back to the weapons that I've used a lot in Battlefield 4 helped me to sort of readjust into the sort of style that Battlefield 4 goes for. Another difference that I sort of welcomed was the graphic and art style of Battlefield 4. I actually do prefer this quite a bit more to what Battlefield Hardline is. Whilst I prefer Battlefield Hardline's sort of silliness and not taking itself seriousness, if you get what I mean, Battlefield 4 just has an art style that I find really appealing. It seems a lot more lifelike, with higher res textures, and it doesn't look as washed out. Particle effects are a lot better, and whilst explosions are something that Battlefield Hardline actually excels at, I do still prefer Battlefield 4. I also didn't find any frame stutters on Battlefield 4, whereas I did in Battlefield Hardline beta. Now of course this whole video is kind of unfair because the Battlefield Hardline game that we tried was only a beta, it's not finished yet. So of course they still have some work to do with the graphic and art style of Battlefield Hardline. And of course there's more optimization for Nvidia and Visceral to do together, so of course there is probably not going to be any micro stuttering in the final game, I hope, and of course they could probably do some more things with particle effects and things like that, but as it stands I prefer how Battlefield 4 looks. Now I'm going to make another pretty unfair comparison here, and I was actually quite refreshed to go back and play some of a wider variety of maps, because in Battlefield Hardline, after playing it for pretty much 6 or 7 days constantly, like 4 hours a night constantly, just so I could get enough time in it, I've been playing 3 modes and 3 maps, and that is it. Whereas in Battlefield 4 we have a range of, I think it's like 10 game modes and like 20, even 30 maps. So there's a much wider variety of things that we can play there. And whilst that's an unfair comparison, because in the final release of Battlefield Hardline we are going to be getting 9 maps and 7 game modes, it just was, I found it nice to be able to play a wide variety of game modes that I actually enjoyed, and ones that if I got bored of one I could go back and play another one instantly. There was no doubt about it. Whereas in playing Heist and Conquest Large and Hotwire, whilst they were all fun in Hardline, when you're playing 4 hours a night you kind of get bored of one after an hour, and then you want to switch to another one, and then you end up going back to the other game mode, and it's just not as appealing as I would like it to be. But they're just a couple of things that I kind of noticed between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline, and that was just me getting adjusted back into the sort of playstyle. Now, in other things that have been going on with Battlefield 4, I haven't actually touched the Battlefield 4 CTE, the community test environment, in a long while. I uninstalled it whilst I was playing some other games like Assassin's Creed Unity and Watch Dogs. But now I've actually re-downloaded it, and there's some very interesting stuff going on. There's something called the Infiltration of Shanghai, which is basically a modified version of Siege of Shanghai, the map that everybody either loves or hates, and they basically turned it into a night map. Now, it is a prototype at the minute. If you don't know what prototypes are in CTE, they are things that they are implementing into the community test environment that might make it into the final release, depending on the feedback that they get from testing. Now, because it's only a prototype, it's not actually finished. There are things like light sources that don't actually stop when you destroy them, and glass that actually reflects the daytime view, and other things like the IRNV and the FLIR sights, I think that's how you pronounce it, not actually working because they're designed for the daylight and they aren't actually calibrated for nighttime settings, which kind of sounds weird, but that's just the way it is. Not everything works properly. So, of course, they are still updating it because it's on the PC, CTE's on the PC, so they can update it for free, it's their servers, so they can just very easily implement an update, and they do that every few days or so. But I'm quite excited to see how this actually carries out and whether they're going to do any other maps. I think it'd be quite nice to see some maps like Zavod 311 to come into the night mode, and also Operation Firestorm, because we have a lot of light sources and dynamic light sources in that map with all of the fire and explosions that goes on with that. I think it'd be very interesting to see what the professionals at DICE could do to transform that map into something as beautiful as what they have done with Siege of Shanghai already. And there will be a video coming soon of that night map of Siege of Shanghai, and you might even be seeing some gameplay of it right here. But anyway, cheers for watching, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.